Hey everybody, this is Bill with the Cajun Homestead. I am doing a video from a challenge from Brett and Amy from Broussard Homestead. Now, their challenge, which I appreciate, was to name my top 10 homestead animals. So I'm going to get started on that right now, and appreciate you watching. Okay, my top animal, my number one animal would be a dog for my yard. I actually have no fencing right now. I actually had to, I just lost my yard dog, which was a black-mouthed cur crossed with an Anatoly. From what we understand, he was a fairly good-sized dog. He was an awesome dog. And I lost him Thanksgiving Day. He was only sick for about maybe a day or so. He had everything, had all this, medical up to date. So, but I believe he did get some bad dog food after he had passed away. There was a warning on certain brands of dog food, and the dog food we fed him was one of those. So I don't know if he, if it messed him up, and then because he passed away rather quickly. So the first one would be a yard dog, but I'm not going to have a yard dog until I finish my fencing. I have quite a bit of fencing to do. I have actually 8 rows of goat fencing and 410 T-posts and 50 cross ties and quite a few cross posts that go in between. Anyway, long and short, I have quite a bit of fencing material that I purchased quite a few years ago for this place, and I'm still trying to clean property up for the fence line. So back to my list. My second animal would be a cat. Now, I don't have any barns. I have outbuildings. So it really, would be his. I say his because I'd really want a tomcat to put, a large tomcat. So that's what we've had in the past, and they do the job rather well of disposing of any mice and actually any critters. Snakes. They do have a habit of killing snakes. I've seen them drag up a snake or two. And my third one would be chickens. Now these, I like the Dominant chicken. Also the Rhode Island Reds. One of my biggest roosters I ever had was a Rhode Island Red. And he did his job very well. In fact, he would defend his girls against pretty much any other animal that seemed to come around. I had all my chickens penned up. When I was a kid, we had them in a pen, a fairly large yard. And what I've actually done on this place with my chickens is I've had them in a fenced off large area, and I always had a shelter for them to go into at night and be closed up, and I had water in there and a chicken feeder inside the little pen. One day I'll show it to you. I actually have 2 of them, and one was for hens and one is for roosters. My hen shelter has a area for the hens to go up in and lay the eggs, so you can check your eggs outside the pen. And anytime I've ever owned chickens, I always had an automatic feeder, which is actually a deer feeder. You just set the time to where you want it to feed and for the minutes or seconds that you want. And then I've always had automatic waters. My one project I was working on before I got rid of my chickens last time was an automatic door. That's not the fact that I'm lazy. It's just that I work a day job, and I'm going to use any convenience and new technology that I can. And I'm kind of a techie. I like new technology to help me on my job. The deal is on the chickens is the same like a lot of people like quail. I worked at a quail farm, which was actually a game bird farm, which we raised pheasants, chuckers, and quail when I was a kid. When I was about, I think my 13, 14, 15 years, 3 summers I worked. We did everything. We butchered the quail, fed the quail, raised them, hatched them out. We actually did something which I don't see very often anymore, is we debeaked them. All his birds were debeaked to keep them from cannibalizing each other. I don't even know if they do that no more. But we did butcher them with he had all the amenities of the industry. He had the scalding machine, the plucking machine, and operated it all. So I know quite a bit about raising quail, and it goes along with raising chickens, the same thing. So my second one would be guineas. Now I've raised guineas in the past when I was a kid, and my grandparents had a couple guineas. With guineas, they're pretty much free range, the ones we had. At night, they get up in the trees. We never did clip their wings because with them being free range, you want them to be able to get away from either a fox or coyotes or the possum and the coons, any of the other animals that like to eat your quail, to eat your guineas. I'm sorry. The next thing would be ducks. Now I've had ducks when I was a kid. We raised them in pens with the chickens. Now if you have a small pool for the ducks, again, they can get quite nasty. So if I do the ducks, they'll either be in a pen, or I'd like to keep them down by my pond and provide shelter for them so they can get away from, because down by the pond they're going to be pretty much easy pickings unless they have a place to get away from a fox or a coyote or pretty much anything, a hawk, which is kind of hard to get away from a hawk. The next animal would be goats. Now, I've raised goats in the past when I was a kid, but I want to have goats. I love goat's milk, and I do like goat meat. I had an opportunity to eat a lot of goat meat when I actually worked in a foreign country for a short while. So, and they like goats. So that's about all I'm going to leave on that subject. But I have a friend that raises goats, and he milks them. And they were actually giving me some of their milk. And it was good milk. But she did feed them, don't forget it. Anyway, feeding some high quality hay, some alfalfa. I couldn't remember. But anyway, they raised alfalfa, and she would purchase alfalfa, and that's what ended up making her get out of it because the hay was so expensive. Because down in our part of the country, it's kind of hard to raise alfalfa from what I understand. So, but I'm going to experiment with it. I'd rather raise it myself if I could. And then the sheep. I would raise, if I had a choice, I'd raise hair sheep. Now hair sheep, which is a meat sheep, it tastes quite a bit, to me it tastes quite a bit of difference. I've ate both the regular wool sheep that people raise, and to me it had more of a tallow taste to the meat. The meat from a hair sheep, to me, which is the breed a friend of mine has, is Katanas, and I help him every year. I go usually help him butcher 3 or 4 of his sheep, and we do it in one morning. So, and it's getting close to that time, so we're trying to get that scheduled to where I go help him. And I like to keep the skill up on all this stuff. Any of the butchering I do, I go help people, either whether it be in sausage making or just butchering. Try to keep my skill level up. My next would be a young calf. Now, when I was a kid, we always had a young calf. We raised every year, and we would butcher it towards the end of towards summertime. So, and do the sausage, the smokehouse. We did all that when I was a kid. My dad was very much in tune with that. So, and he made sure we learned it. So, it would most likely be, I'd have to get the hay and put him in a pasture for that. So, next thing would be a pig. Now, the pig, I've been around raising pigs when I was a young person. We did free range them a lot. We put them underneath behind electric fence, and we'd run them usually in our cornfield. We always raised corn, usually a couple acres, and we normally turn the pigs into the cornfield after we had picked everything we wanted. Now pigs can be destructive, but they have uses. So that's part on the pig. Now that my 10th animal, kind of an unusual animal, would be draft animal of some sort, whether it be a young steer or a young horse, a gelding or something. And I would, it takes, the deal with a draft animal, it takes a number of years to train draft animals. And if you go to purchase a draft animal, they can be rather expensive. So if I had a choice, I'd rather raise one my own and work him, because I do enjoy draft animals. I've been to a number of shows. My dad, when I was a young kid then, he had them when we were real small. He had a set of Morgans, which are draft horses. And I have actually an antique hay rake that I received from my grandmother. And I have a number of sickle mowers that I've purchased to restore. And I have a number of other equipment like corn shellers and I think it's a 24-inch grist mill for cornmeal or flour that I have to restore. The deal with the grist mill and the corn shellers, you need another piece of equipment called a horse sweep. Is one way of powering them. Now, horse sweep is if you don't know what a horse sweep is, just go on YouTube and look up horse sweep and see what they are. Because if you got one in your backyard and you want to get rid of it, I'm definitely interested in it. If you're close enough for me to come get it, I wouldn't mind purchasing it. Or we can talk price. So anyway, that's the other one. Another, not an animal, but it's a great resource on your homestead is bees. Now, I've raised bees off and on all my life. In fact, I have a hive at another location that I'm fixing to have to go get, and I will probably document that on YouTube, going to get that and how I go about doing it. Been around honeybees off and on, like I said, all my life, and I still have all the equipment. My dad was a big honeybee guy. He enjoyed bees. But one note on all this is rabbits. When I was a kid, my dad raised rabbits, a lot of them. We had a barn with rabbits in them. Now, I'm the one that processed all these rabbits. I would have to butcher the rabbits and prepare them. And what he would do is my dad would actually take them to work and sell them. So I was kind of like the rabbit guy. I was around the rabbits and the breeding and raising the young ones. And a lot of times I actually helped build the barn with automatic waters. And that's the thing. A lot of my animals are going to be on automatic waters, and automatic feeders. But that don't mean you don't go out and check your animals every day, because you do. If you're going to raise animals, you need to take care of them. They're like your kids. You have to go check on them daily. And the other thing with a lot of these animals is the cost of medical care. All these animals, most all of them have to be wormed, and their health relies on you. So if you take up raising animals, you're responsible for all this, and whether or not they get out and destroy other people's property. And I have a big thing about that, about fencing my dogs off. I don't want my dog to leave my yard, but I don't want your dog on my property either, because a lot of people don't believe about their animals. They're just kind of like their kids, that they do no wrong. Well, I'm tell you right now, your neighbor's dogs can definitely wipe out a big part of your investment. So take care of your animals if you own them. So that's it pretty much. Hope I didn't take too much of your time. I'll get this posted as soon as I can. But also remember, if you enjoyed this video, please like it. Hit the bell so you'll get notifications. And also be sure and subscribe. And the other thing, if you get a chance, go check out the Broussard Homestead. They got some awesome videos. So I appreciate you. Thank you. Have a good evening.